In Living Leadership, we depict with a tree. We just depict it that way, and businesses go through seasons, don't they? Spring, summer, autumn, winter, you do well, you don't do well, you have abundance, whatever. And when we talk about living leadership, we talk about it in 4 areas. The very first one that we talk about is about creating a great company to strive for. If you haven't watched a specific TED Talk, I'd like you to watch it. And I love TED Talks, they're brilliant leadership development, aren't they? But there's one on there by a guy called Simon Sinek, S-I-N-E-K. And I just want you to watch his presentation. And it's all about this one piece. It's all about a great company to strive for. Why do we do what we do? What is our purpose? What is our destiny? Who are our customers? What are the markets? What is it we're striving for? What is the legacy? I had one company director flew in on her company jet to meet me one day, and I rocked up in my old Volvo, and she talked to me about this one specifically. And she said, what is the legacy we want to leave behind for future generations? What does that look like? Your people will die for a cause. Are you giving them one? Great company to strive for. And that's underpinned by this huge, huge value, which is all about trust and building trust in the organization. Do you, and ask yourself this right now, do you trust yourself, never mind your people? Where are your levels of trust in the organization? Do you trust that your people come to work to do a great job? Are you setting them free to be able to do that? Trust is at the core. The next one on here is this great summer one, which is about a great company to do business with. Do you make it easy for your customers to do business with you? If you think about the Amazons of this world, the John Lewises of this world, the British Airways of this world, the RBS, I have been an RBS customer since I was about 12 years old. I have absolutely no intention of changing. They make it so easy for me to do business with them. I like what they do. I like all the products and services. And I'm still with the same bank in deepest, darkest Scotland where I was growing up, because I don't need to change it. I don't need to have one where I now live. Do you make it easy for your customers to do business with you? And do you make it easy for your people to do business with your customers? Or is it a 20-mile-an-hour IVR system and you might talk to a person someday? All underpinned by creativity and innovation. More about that one in just a minute. A great company to work for. You know this one. This audience in this room knows this one already. This is about creating a great physical environment for your people. A fantastic place where they want to work. It's interesting that a company is called a company, isn't it? And Bruno mentioned that we need company. We're herding animals, and I'm an absolute advocate of work-life balance and flexible working. But equally, we're herding animals, and we need to make it easy for our people to be with each other and belong to something. Which brings me on to the final one in here, which is around a great company to belong to. This is the emotional engagement. This is a sense of pride for who they work for. Are you proud of who you work for? Or would you rather be working somewhere else? 72% of the workforce would rather be doing something else on a Monday morning. Is that your people? It's up to you to change that, by the way. You own it. And that bit is about integrity. And it's about creating an environment of total and absolute integrity in everything that you do. So what does that look like then? If we take living leadership and we kind of stretch it out a little bit and just give you a little bit of background, we subdivide it into 2 sections. In any business, whether you're manufacturing carpets, drugs, or selling financial services, it doesn't matter what you do. Every one of us has customers, people, and processes or systems in their business. But it's the intersection of these that creates the difference. And it goes back to what I talked about earlier. Do you make it easy for your people to build relationships with your customers and for your customers to build relationships with all of your people? Are you playing to their strengths so that they can deliver fantastic customer service? Do your people work for your processes, or do your processes work for your people? 70% of a process can usually be stripped out, by the way, because it's not focused on your customer. And when you've stripped out all those meetings and emails and Friday afternoon wastes of time things that you get involved in, then maybe you can give that back to the third thing on here, which is about innovation. 20% of a Googler's week is spent working on what they fancy doing. It's about innovation. It's about getting away from the desk and just doing something different. I worked for 100 years for Hewlett-Packard, and that was an organization I absolutely loved working for when I did work for them. And they were a fantastic company to work for. But I was expected to get up and get away from my desk and do something different. Go to the gym, go play outside, go for a run, go work somewhere else. But are you setting up your environments for people to be able to do that? This is what we call align, aligning your business around your customers. Put the customer at the center of what you do and then develop everything else around that. And then the second part of it is what we call the allow piece. And the allow piece is about leadership, followership, and colleagueship. Leadership without followers is a bit like the sound of one hand clapping. Yeah? You've got to have people following you. You've got to have people that want to take the lead from you. And you know what? Sometimes you've got to be a follower too. Yesterday, I've got a young girl that's working for us at the moment. She's 20 years old, and she came into the office and she said, Lynn, that's just the wrong way to be doing this communication. Can I make a suggestion? I think we should do it this way. And in that moment, I became her follower. And I followed right through on it, and I did what she told me to do. And by the way, fantastic idea. Yeah. So when are you being a follower, or is it all your way or the highway? This is about creating empowerment. And somebody that follows you, then guess what happens? By the way, you can't delegate empowerment. Empowerment is an emotion, just like anger, happiness, or anything else. You create empowerment through leadership and followership. And then when you've got that followership, the next bit to get the colleagueship is about all of that engagement stuff. And there are loads of things that you can do in terms of creating engagement. And when you have the engagement, it's the third thing, energy. So many times organizations call Ali and I to come in to do some culture change work, and they say, Lynn, we want to empower our employees. We want to get them motivated. We want to raise the energy in the team and get some creative. You know, they're looking at the wrong thing. They're looking at the outcomes. They're not looking at the inputs. It's usually back to self. Yeah. So what are you doing in your business? And we call that allow, and it's about creating that culture that allows people to do a great job. But what happens when you put these together? This is what I want to share with you, just a little bit about some of this. You know about align and you know about allow. When you balance these, and the key thing is about balancing these two things in the organization, the other two aspects of the four-stage process fall into place. And they are creating advocacy, customer advocacy, and employee advocacy, both of those things. And more about that in just a moment. And the fourth one in there is the whole area of abundance. In other words, business results, bottom line results. There's the four things: business results, productivity, quality, and people, all in that one thing. We just call them something different here. But here's what you have to do in between. Let's start at the top. Between advocacy and align, it's this huge word which is called allegiance. Let me share with you some allegiance stuff. And this is related absolutely to your customer. Your customers, whoever they are, only buy three things from you, all underpinned by good feelings. They buy emotionally and then they justify with logic. Yeah? And they want you to understand where they are so that you can do something different for them. It was Steve Jobs who said there wasn't one single customer ever asked for an iPad. Yeah? But this is how you build it. Innocent Drinks knew this absolutely when they stood on the street corner and said, if you think we should give up our jobs as software engineers and set up the Innocent Drink Company, then tell us how good you feel with these drinks. Do they make you feel good? If you think they're rubbish, throw your empties in the no bin. If you think they're fantastic and they make you feel good, even just to read the labeling, then throw it in the yes bin. Guess what bin was full at the end of the day? We would never have heard of them, would we? They knew how to create good feelings. The second example I want to give you on the second bullet point there is the National Blood Service. They know that everybody buys emotionally and then justifies with logic. It is not the other way around. Nobody ever buys logically. I see some of the men sitting in the room saying, yes, I do. No, you don't. Yeah. Think about if you've ever bought a car or a new stereo system or a new television set or something. You buy it because you want it. You buy it because it's Pioneer or Bang & Olufsen or something like that. And then you tell your wife, but it was a good deal. I got it in the sale. Really good company I bought. We went to John Lewis for it. Yeah? We justify with logic afterwards. Nobody wants to give their armful of blood. You know, we don't give that away logically. We give it away emotionally. And when the National Blood Service tapped into that with photographs of real people having their lives saved because of the National Blood Service, their blood donations went up. People buy emotionally and justify with logic. And the third one on there, I think, is represented brilliantly by the O2 organisation, where I got that word advocacy from. Cheryl Black, the customer service director for O2, says, we do not get customers, we create fans. Now, think about the difference. A fan is somebody who shouts about you from the rooftops. I'm a Queen fan. Bruno Brooks didn't ask me that earlier. I was hoping he was going to ask me who I liked. See, I'm that ancient, you see. I love Queen. And I will shout about them from the rooftops. And O2 absolutely recognised this. And I want you to think about this when you're doing your FM. They realised that they had to walk in their customers' shoes, first of all. And that meant using the phones, using the contracts, actually doing it the way the customer did it. And they worked out that one size does not fit all, the second box on the quadrant here. They knew that the thumb tribe, that's our teenagers, used phones mostly for texting, whereas parents who received a text said, it's quicker to phone you back. And they phoned, yeah? They also knew that contracts were different. They also knew, just like my eldest daughter's 29, she's got cerebral palsy and learning difficulties. She's in a wheelchair and has a lot of spasticity in her fingers. How could she use a mobile phone? Imagine giving her a crackberry and trying to use those little tiny buttons. But O2 listened to this and they brought out phones for people with disabilities and contracts that were managed by their mums and dads easily, or their carers. They also got in the grass and looked at what the competition were doing. And finally, they set up what we call Your Wish is Our Command. Your Wish is Our Command is why we have the O2 Stadium. Because O2 customers said, we'd like to know about tickets for shows and concerts ahead of everybody else. Your wish is our command. That's easily done on a piece of technology like that. What are you doing to bring those four things into your FM for the employees that you're delivering your services to? Think about it in that way. And think about, therefore, what is it you're selling to your customer in that environment? And it reminds me of the guy who heads up Revlon. And he says, Lynn, in our factories, we manufacture lipstick. In our department stores, we sell hope. What are you selling? Truly, what are you selling? Build customer advocacy, loyalty through allegiance, absolutely key. And the internal bit, the employee bit, is about employee affinity. And that's about playing to strengths, but it's also about some other things in there. Whatever you're striving for, whatever your destiny is, if you add that to the core values that you stand for, and I don't mean posters on a wall, I mean how you behave, or how you want everybody to behave in the organisation, then the behaviours will come. We do that through living leadership, and certainly those four core values are what we espouse. And for my organisation, for Ali's organisation, what we do is, that's our destiny. Our destiny is to change the way work works for good. Not just for good being eternity, but for good, for goodness. So it's a good place to work, so that people are proud of where they work. And can you create goodness in your workplace where every employee is respected, has dignity, wants to get up in the morning? Yes, the weekend's over, I can get back to work. Yay! That's what you're aiming for. And that's about attracting. And you attract people through flexible working, through great places to work, creating fantastic environments, physical environments, and so on. We don't need this stuff anymore. We're not pigs. Yeah? We don't need to be hemmed in. We want something different. And these are some of the ones from Lego and Google, and I bet you've done some even more fantastic. But are you setting up space for departments or activities? Are you setting up space for customer teams to get together, or the HR department, the finance department, the silos? Get rid of all that. That's rubbish. It's old-fashioned. Set up space for activities, not departments. Bring the outside in. You'll know who needs dedicated space. It's quite clear. But otherwise, be creative. And there are many ways to skin a cat in terms of work space and working time. These are just some of the ones that Ali and I have worked on with different customers over the last few years. Google, for example, I'll use them again. In fact, Microsoft do the same. Is they have areas of their wasted space when they did their space audits and found out, actually, we've got loads of extra space here. What they did was they just rent it out to local micro businesses. Come in, plug in, keyboard villages, techno hubs, where they can come in and just work. And Google provides them that space. How could you sell space differently? How could you encourage the growth of small businesses in your larger businesses as well? And there are many ways to cut time. I haven't got time to go into flexible working today, but we have 24 hours in a day, and we need to think about time differently in the workplace. Stop measuring people on input, i.e. hours, and start measuring them on output, contribution. I don't care where my team work. I don't care when they work. I don't care about any of that stuff. What I care about is that's their objectives, go do it. But take time for family. Don't come to me and say, is it all right if I have time out for my kids' sports day or go to something? No, like manage your own time, you're a grown-up. In Ernst & Young, we put in something called time sovereignty, and it is quite simply that. You're a grown-up, manage your own time. We need to do this if we want to attract talent. And then finally, it's this area of building alliances. I heard this a little bit earlier on, and it's brilliant to see these partnerships and alliances happening. But your talent is now from everywhere in the world. Seriously, it is not under your nose. You have to think differently. You know, build with yourself through your young people and think about how you're doing things. I want to tell you a very quick story on this one. But Ali and I were working at a stockbroker firm not very far away from here. And the guy that headed up this, a guy called Charles, fantastic bloke, archetypal stockbroker though, yeah. And he said, Lynn, I've got a story to tell you about this one with Gem Y and about using Gem Y in different ways. He said, I came into the office one morning and I sent out an email to everybody in the business, a strategy decision that I had made about my company. Young Gem Y, 21, rocked into the business probably about 11 o'clock and, you know, logged on to email, and he saw the email from the chief exec and he thought, that's a bad decision for our business. That's a really daft strategy. Now, because he's Gen Y and we've brought them up confident, he pinged an email to the chief exec, boss, bad idea. Charles from Oak Panelled Office, you can almost see him. I didn't get where I am today by making bad decisions for our business. But this was the difference. Young Gem Y went back to Charles. He said, boss, I understand this is an uncomfortable conversation for you to have. But you're going to have it because that's a bad decision. Now, would you agree with me that Charles could have squashed that young man? Absolutely. He didn't. He said, Lynn, I had the wit to listen. We've been working with him long enough to make him realize you don't crush people. You listen. You know, 2 ears, 1 mouth, use them in those proportions. So he went down to the floor and he sat down with this young man. 2 hours later, he got up off his feet. He walked back to his office and he overturned his decision. And it wasn't just that one case in point. What that man did was he put in place something called the Foresight Group. And the Foresight Group are his Gen Ys and his women in the organisation, because, by the way, there's very few of them ever get up there, let's be honest. And those people are the mentors for the senior managers. What are you doing to tap into your young people, the women in your organization, and anyone else that you're not listening to right now? Take time to listen. And then build your partnerships. You talked about partnerships as well earlier, didn't you? And you talked about the essential, you do not have all the competence inside, and I think that's what you said. And it is absolutely about this. It's about building the partnerships and alliances that will help you into the future. Build them with everywhere that you can go, whether it's academic, whether it's, for example, Debbie Watts down the front here. Debbie is a fantastic consultant on space and all this. Sorry, Debbie, I'll just blow your trumpet whilst you're there. Absolutely brilliant. Debbie and I have worked together on a few different projects, but we've also tapped into some of the research that's been done by Oxford University, Kingston University, and so on, looking at aroma in the workplace, ceiling heights, space, open plan versus closed plan, and so on. And I'm interested in it from a gender perspective. And if I can just make a point to the chap who asked about space earlier in regard to that. Open plan environments, your women will be more productive in open plan environments because women hear 5 tonal pattern changes in a voice, but men can only hear 3. Women can block out sound. Ladies, do we ever hear our kids? No. Or our husbands. But we can block out sound. Whereas men find it more difficult. If you're going to have men in open plan environments, put them around the periphery, not in the middle. It's much easier for them to block out. And what we did in Google was put in some one person, those beach huts that you saw earlier, they're in the Google London office just along here in Victoria. And what they are just one person pods where people can just go away and get some quiet concentration time if they're needing to think about it. They've got phone boxes and all sorts. So be creative with some of that. But they are particularly important for men. Men need quiet space to retreat so they can concentrate better. I could keep you here all day on this, so I'm not going to now. So bringing your organization to life around some of this stuff is absolutely aligning around your customers, putting your customer at the core of everything you do. Even placing your people in customer. One of the NHS functions that organizations that Ali and I are doing a major change project in right now, we have aligned ourselves with, aligned everybody in the business around the customer. But what we've also done with this organization is partnered up with some technical organizations like Philips, IBM, and BT, so that we can start to do job swaps, bringing people in and out into different places, and it's working brilliantly. It's really fantastic. So think about how you can do that to benefit your customer. Allowing your people to set them free. Building the advocacy, the customer loyalty and the employee engagement, and which brings these two things. And then finally, your business results will happen. Stop walking backwards, staring at numbers. They're called business results because they're the past. They've already resulted. So I'm going to just leave you with a few final tips on here. Build relationships. We are herding animals just like cows and sheep, and we need to come together, even if we're working mobile. Find ways through technology, go to meeting, go to webinar, whatever you're doing, radio, anything, just to create that relationship building. Bring play into the workplace in as many ways as you can. You need to get people away from the desk and allow them that play time. And encourage it. If somebody's worked their heart out for you for the last few weeks, tell them to disappear for a week. Just go play, go away, spend time with your kids. Don't want to see you. Yeah. A company in Birmingham that I worked with on this, 98% of the employees were men. It was a huge metal extrusion plant, fantastic organization. He had 0% attrition because he created some of this stuff in the workplace. Tell stories, your myths and legends, the things that have made you great, never forget those, because it's stories and legends that build society and build communities, company communities, all coming from the Latin word com, which is about together, coming together. And we really need to do more of that. Uphold your values in everything that you do. Yeah? Call people when they're not living the values. Call people on it. Leader or employee, main board to switchboard, you need to live the values. Invest in yourself, in your personal development. A boss once said to me in HP, Lynne, you might be on the right track now, but unless you keep moving, sooner or later you're going to get run over. So invest in learning. Go out there and learn as much as you can. and bring it back into your organizations. Absolutely encourage work and life balance. Your people will never be productive if they're knackered. You really must create that work-life balance. Look for ways in your organization that you can be cheerful. Instead of constantly talking about the bad news, how about looking at gratitude? As Ian Drury once said, reasons to be cheerful. What is it you want to celebrate this week, and how are you communicating those things to your staff on a regular basis? Manage the fear in organizations. It's essential. People fear losing their jobs. They fear all sorts of things. And fear stands for false expectation appearing real, because you haven't communicated effectively. Get rid of that. It's up to you. Be kind, be generous, create dignity in the workplace, love your people, because, by the way, that's what we all want at the bottom line. And there is no time, there is no future. This is for now. This is absolutely for now. And I'm going to leave you with the words of my fellow countrymen, the wise words. And I'm going to say to you, there is no such thing as a bad business climate, just inappropriate leadership. Thank you.